Hi there, I'm Charlie, and welcome to the first episode of my brand new series, Accessible Adventures. As you may or may not know, I'm chronically ill and disabled and use a variety of mobility and assistance aids and devices during my daily life. When I first developed my conditions, I didn't know how to go out and about and live my life now that I had to use mobility aids and couldn't necessarily guarantee I could get access to any particular space. At first, I just stayed at home, which ultimately led to me feeling really isolated and lonely. As time went on, I started researching the accessibility of everything I wanted to do, see, or experience. I began to go out and about again and slowly started regaining my confidence. The more I experienced, the more I realized just how much I still wanted to do. And I became determined to find a way to experience everything I wanted accessibly. With that in mind, I decided to start this new series, Accessible Adventures. Each episode of the series will focus on a different location, venue, or activity, and I will review its overall accessibility. The aim is to provide a resource for other people with varying accessibility needs to help them plan their own accessible adventures. Today we'll be exploring the Werribee Open Range Zoo in Victoria, Australia. I love zoos, and this one's a favourite of mine, so I really wanted it to be the first accessible adventure we shared. The Werribee Open Range Zoo is one of the 4 zoos that make up Zoos Victoria and is located in the Werribee Parks precinct. There is a lot of great accessibility information on their website, which I highly recommend you read before going out to the zoo. I will link it in the description for anyone interested, but if you have any questions, all of the staff are really kind and friendly and happy to help. The first step of any accessible adventure is, of course, to make your way to your destination. So that's where we'll start today. Werribee Zoo is easily accessible by either car or bus. If you're traveling by bus, all the relevant route information is available on their website, and there is a bus stop just outside the main entrance. If you're traveling by car, there are 10 accessible parking bays opposite the main entrance, as well as a pick-up and drop-off zone for anyone who needs it. I'll just take this moment to say that if you're not a Zoo's member, you will have to book your ticket online or over the phone in advance. If you are a Zoo's member, you don't need to pre-book a ticket. At the main entrance, there are lines for members and non-members, so the staff can check your tickets and book you a seat on the safari bus if you need priority boarding, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. This is also where you can pick up your map of the zoo, or you can download a digital copy from the zoo's website before you go if you prefer. As well as all of the basics like animal enclosures and bathroom locations, the map also has information on keeper talks and the free safari bus. In addition, there is also a sensory map that details different areas of sensory experiences like loud noises, strong smells, crowded areas, quiet spaces, and more. Once again, this can be found on the zoo's website or from the staff at the entrance. Directly opposite the entry of the zoo is an information booth if you need any further assistance. Now that you've arrived at the zoo and picked up your map, it's time to start exploring. The pathways around the zoo aim to accommodate both mobility aids and strollers. There are even manual wheelchairs available for free hire, which just require a refundable deposit of $20. There are also single and double strollers available for hire. If you need to book a wheelchair or stroller, I recommend booking in advance as there is only a limited number available. There are several different types of pathways throughout the zoo. The vast majority of the pathways are concrete or wood, but there's also dirt, gravel, and sand. Most areas of the zoo are still accessible via wheelchair, but some areas are harder to navigate and might not be accessible if you have mobility needs. I'll talk more about that later on though. Overall, I find the pathways to be very accessible for me in my electric wheelchair, but I definitely still struggle in a few places. While exploring, you may find yourself needing to take a rest every now and then, so having adequate rest spots is important. There are lots of benches around the zoo, including some form of seating at most animal enclosures, and there are multiple dining and picnic areas with additional seating as well. However, some of the benches are stylized in ways that may not make them accessible to everyone. When it comes to food and drink, you can bring your own picnic from home, or you can grab a meal at the Meerkat Bistro. During peak periods and school holidays, there are 3 other places to eat around the zoo, but the bistro is open every day. The bistro gets its name and popularity from the glass wall overlooking the meerkat enclosure in the dining room. The building is accessible by either ramp or stairs, and inside is one of the 3 accessible bathrooms around the zoo. The accessible toilets are all different sizes, and the one in the bistro is unfortunately the smallest. I found it a struggle to turn my wheelchair around in the room, but was eventually able to. There are baby change tables in the accessible bathrooms, some of which are shared parenting rooms. There is also one bathroom with an adult changing table with hoist and shower that requires key access. While exploring the zoo, there is a lot to see and do, but the number one thing on your list should definitely be the free safari bus. The safari bus runs approximately approximately once an hour on weekdays and roughly every 20 minutes on weekends and public holidays. The guided tour lasts around 40 minutes and explores multiple different landscapes. The tour guides will give you a lot of information about the various animals you'll see and the zoo's effort to help fight the extinction of critically endangered animals. You don't need to book a ticket to go on the tour bus, but if you need any special assistance, you can book ahead for priority boarding. This includes wheelchair users, people with mobility or vision impairment, the elderly, even larger groups. As I briefly mentioned earlier, you will need to book this with the staff when entering the zoo, but don't worry, it's really easy and quick. Firstly, the staff will ask to confirm what your access needs are. If you're a wheelchair user, they will also ask if you would like to remain in your own wheelchair or transfer to one of the seats on the bus. If you stay in the wheelchair, they'll strap your chair down for safety. Next, you need to decide when you would actually like to go on the bus, and the staff will confirm the availability for that time. Once confirmed, the staff will give you a receipt to bring down to the safari station where the bus team will assist you. If you're in a wheelchair or unable to take large steps, you can enter the safari bus using an electric wheelchair lift that folds down from underneath the bus. The driver will ensure you are safely in position with your brakes on before operating the lift. Once you're on board and you have your seatbelt or wheelchair fastened, they will move the bus to the main entry for the safari and let everyone else board before the tour begins. At the end of the tour, guests without assistance needs will exit first and the staff will unstrap your wheelchair if you're in one and then help you safely off the bus. The safari tour itself is really incredible. I have personally gone on it over half a dozen times and the staff make the accessibility really easy. I really strongly recommend checking it out when you go to the zoo, and I'm also going to share some clips of the safari highlights at the end of the video if you want to see them, so please stick around. I'm sure it's pretty obvious at this point that I really like going to Werribee Zoo, but it does have its pain points when it comes to accessibility. Overall, I think the zoo is very accessible, but it wouldn't feel right not to share the challenges as well. As I mentioned, not all of the pathways are accessible if you are using a mobility aid. Some of the wood bridges are really uneven and the gaps between the boards could be problematic for someone using a cane or crutches, as well as walkers and wheelchairs. The gravel, dirt and sandy pathways all obviously present their own challenges for accessibility. Also, some of the concrete paths have animal footprints pressed into them, which is aesthetically nice but does affect the overall level of accessibility. Some of the paths are actually quite uneven where this is done, which can affect people with vision or mobility issues. The main culprit for inaccessibility around the zoo, in my opinion, is the Australia Trail. The pathways are primarily dirt or gravel or wood planks, and there are multiple large gates that you need to be able to open and close as you travel throughout the free-ranging animal areas. Additionally, the benches in the area are all shaped like gum leaves, which again is aesthetically very cool, but not particularly good from an accessibility standpoint. I personally don't typically go to the Australian area as I really struggle to navigate it in my wheelchair. While filming this video, I actually got stuck multiple times in this area and I had to have Ian help me out. If you are able to make it through, I highly recommend checking out the wool shed as that's really interesting. From the Australia Trail, you can also access the Riverwalk Trail. It was closed on the day we went as they were setting up a new exhibit. Unfortunately, I can't really tell you anything about it because the hill to get to it was too steep for my electric wheelchair and I got stuck again. Speaking of getting stuck, I really wanted to show you the secondary viewpoint for the gorilla exhibit. I got a little overly confident and decided to go up this hill to see the gorillas because they weren't very visible from the other viewing areas, and then I almost couldn't get down. Turns out the hill was way too steep and way too uneven for my wheelchair. So as I tried to leave, my wheels started slipping and I began to lose control. Fortunately, I was able to hold the rope and slowly make my way back down, but it was scary and I definitely don't recommend it. We also tried to visit the monkey playroom, but couldn't because the all access entrance had been so worn down from use that it was no longer actually accessible. Lastly, there are some areas where your vision is restricted when you're in a wheelchair. For example, at the hippo enclosure, there was this big wooden bar directly at face height. Fortunately though, there are multiple viewing points for a lot of enclosures, so that did help with overall visibility. Once you've finished exploring the zoo, if you're anything like me, you're going to go straight to the gift shop. Fortunately, the gift shop is completely step-free and really accessible. During the day, you can also leave the zoo through the gift shop, which will take you out to the main entrance. However, once I stayed at the zoo until it was almost closing time and I nearly didn't get out. After a certain time, they locked the exit exit in the gift shop, and there is an outdoor exit you're instructed to use instead. Unfortunately, this exit is a metal turnstile that is not big enough for all mobility aids and strollers. That day, we intended to use that exit, but realized it was way too small and went to find a staff member for help. That particular staff member insisted we had to use the exit and that we would definitely fit. Unfortunately, they were wrong. I got stuck halfway through the turnstile and actually damaged part of my old manual wheelchair. In the end, I had to walk out of the turnstile myself and then have Ian fold up the wheelchair and try to force it out of the turnstile. As you can imagine, that wasn't the ideal accessible exit that we had hoped for. We did, of course, ask for help again when we got stuck, but by the time someone was actually able to get to us, we already got out. I want to stress though that this is not the norm. This was a once-off, and we have never before or since experienced anything remotely like that at any of our zoo outings. All in all, despite the few challenges I faced, I still think that the Werribee Open Range Zoo is a great place to visit for an accessible adventure, and that the safari bus is an absolute must. I highly encourage you to review all of the accessibility information they have on their website, as it really is quite thorough. Once again, the link is in the description. If you have any questions about the zoo or my experience, drop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer. Also, if there's any information you think would be helpful for you in my next accessibility video, please let me know and I'll do my best to include it. I'm also open to suggestions for places that you would like me to review. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on another accessible adventure coming soon. I'm gonna leave you now with some of my favorite clips from the safari and around the zoo. I really hope you like them. I hope you're having an amazing day and I can't wait to see you all again soon. Bye!